All right, good evening, East Hampton Town ZBA. We are live. We're streaming on 22. We're streaming to YouTube. Phone lines are open. You are being recorded. You may begin.
Thank you, Matt, and welcome everyone to the Zoning Board, Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for July 29th, 2025. Just a note before we move into our hearings, we have 5 hearings scheduled for this evening, so I'm going to just ask that everybody stick to the following schedule. Presentations by agents will be limited to 10 minutes apiece, professionals 5 minutes, and public commentary 3 minutes. So that we can try to move this along. Thank you. Our first scheduled public hearing this evening is Norman Henry Leathers Living Trust at 4 Will Curl Highway in Springs, tax map number 300-94-6-17.2. The size and location is 17,164 square feet at 4 Will Curl Highway in Springs. The description is to construct a 317 square foot addition, a 225 square foot detached workshop, 180 square foot of additional decking, an existing outdoor shower, new driveway, walkways to upgrade the sanitary system, allow an existing AC unit to remain and to remove an existing shed, walkways, root barrier, and driveway within jurisdiction and setbacks of wetlands, and to allow the existing AC unit to remain within front yard lot line setbacks. Relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the East Hampton Town, and 8 variances are required for this application. Variances 69 feet, 70 feet, 44 feet, 43 feet, and 4 feet are required from 255-430 of the Town Code to construct the proposed outdoor shower 31 feet, walkways 30 feet, covered decking 56 feet, addition 57 feet, an AC unit 96 feet from wetlands where 100-foot setbacks are required. 1 variance of 20.3 feet is required from 255-1110 of the Town Code to allow the existing AC unit to remain 9.7 feet from the front yard lot line where a 30-foot setback is required and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is A residence, zone X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. Council, do we have proper affidavit of service and posting?
Yeah, I reviewed the affidavits of service and posting, and everything seems to be in order, and the board has jurisdiction over this hearing.
Thank you. Vice Chair, this is your report.
Thank you, Chairman Deline. This is a copy of the official notice. The property was properly posted. Next, please, Tyler. This is a picture of the walkways that actually lead up to the 1-story frame dwelling that exists. Next, please. There's a certain portion of this property that really has very dense bamboo. I just wanted to illustrate that to the board. Next, please. This is a copy of, a picture of the shed that exists there now that, according to my materials, is going to be removed, and I think a workshop put there in its place. Next, please. This is a picture of the deck, which is actually before us tonight. It's probably going to be extended another 174 square feet. It's proposed deck to replace the existing deck. Next, please. All right, this is a picture of the outdoor shower. Next, please. This is the proposed roof over the deck to replace the existing deck. Next, please. This is just another visual of the proposed deck that's going to be replaced with existing and the steps that lead up to it. Next, please. This is, again, all throughout this property, there are walkways, and I think there's a certain portion of this project that's going to deal with new driveways. So I was just trying to give the board a sense of what is already there. Next, please. Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you. Do we have the agent here? Hi, Lori, how are you?
Hello, good, thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, Lori.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hi, Lori.
Hi.
Thank
Have
you.
these been
But this is a new
submitted
survey.
digitally? Lori? Have these been submitted already digitally?
I did email it to Tyler today.
Okay.
So this was submitted
Application
to,
was out of the digital application originally, so everything's been handled.
oh, right, okay.
But this is the survey you want us to work off of. Okay.
Survey.
Yeah.
It's just revised as of today, because there were some recommendations that you made in the technical assessment memo, one of which was to move the shower further away from the
Let's
wetlands.
start over.
Oh,
Yes.
Agriculture for land
Sorry, we
planning
just jumped on you.
services, representing the Leathers who are also
You
here
swear
with me.
affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you.
Sorry about that. The suggestions were made that we move the shower further from the wetlands and not put the driveway close to the wetlands. So the shower is now moving further away, and the driveway is no longer being relocated from its original location.
Very good.
Roll it. Oh,
The application was submitted in May of 2024 for an NRSP and wetland setback variances in order to, among other things, construct a small addition to the existing 650 square foot one-story residence, construct a 225 square foot detached workshop, replace and construct additional decking and a roof deck, removal of a non-conforming shed, removal of the existing conventional septic system, which is very close to the wetlands, and installation of an IAOWTS much further from the wetlands. Legalization of an existing AC unit in a non-conforming location 10 feet off 3 Mile Harbor Hog Creek Road and 96 feet from the wetlands is also requested. So as I mentioned, the technical assessment mentioned some alternatives. The client agreed, and he said that he would take it on himself to figure out how to address the driveway and the outdoor shower, which are now further from wetlands than what was originally proposed. There'll also be adjustment to walkways because of that, since the driveway is not moving. So that will, you see that on the survey that I just handed you as well. So due to the constraints of the size of the property and the location of the wetlands and the existing improvements, almost any proposed improvement would require an NRSP and/or variances. The parcel is only 17,000 and change in size, and the wetlands encroach onto the entire property. Well, onto the property, but the wetland setbacks encroach onto the property entirely. At this point, all of the proposed work is landward of the wetlands and in the most conforming location possible. Granting these variances will not cause an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or produce a detriment to nearby properties. The existing AC unit is located in the best possible location for the property and its neighboring properties because it's located in dense vegetation right along a very busy road, so any noise it generates will not affect anyone. There will be no adverse impacts on the environmental or physical conditions of the neighborhood. The proposed IAOWS system is located in a conforming location, and removal of the existing sanitary system will create a marked improvement for the wetlands. It is most likely situated in or very near to groundwater. There is also an effort by my client to preserve existing trees, and he added some additional revegetation in several places, which you'll see on the survey, than what was originally proposed. The benefit sought cannot be achieved without the area variances. While some of the variances are substantial, the owner has done everything he can to reduce the necessity of some of the variances and still have a reasonably sized home and decking. The proposed improvements are compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. All of the recommended conditions of approval would be adhered to, including project limiting fencing, installation of gutters, leaders, and dry wells, and the driveway will consist of clean, local, water-pervious courts. While the hardship may be self-created, this should not preclude granting the requested variances. We have also obtained New York State DEC approval for the project and have submitted that to you tonight. And I will make myself available for questions. And my client is here also if you have questions for him.
The only other question I have is, it appears your proposed total lot coverage is going up very slightly. I mean, just very slightly, and I assume that's because of the proposed walkway from the new driveway location.
2.5%.
It's going up from, yeah, very slightly. It's from 20, it's going up from 2879 to
Yeah, so that would include the
2932.
roofed additions, as well as the walkways.
Yeah, yeah,
that was already on the last
Workshop.
survey.
yeah. No,
And the decking.
Yep.
So yeah, 2.5%, but that's not very much.
yeah, no.
And we're not anywhere near what we're allowed.
No, I think the question is,
Yeah.
we had a survey that already reflected the things that you're talking about, and the one you just handed us the one you just gave us, it's going up a little bit from there. So I think,
Because of the walkways. I see what you're asking me. Yes, we had
The
to
walkways.
revise the walkways because
And that's the reason
we had the
for it.
driveway
That's
right
all
next to
I've
the
said.
house. Yes.
okay, so now that you've reverted back to the old
Correct.
driveway, there's more walkway.
Correct.
Got it.
So can you tell us how much the variances have changed due to the shower movement and everything you mentioned?
Yeah. Oh, I skipped that sentence. I had that in here. Yes, so the shower was originally 31 feet from the wetlands,
It was the biggest variance.
and now it's going to be 62 feet from the wetlands. So we reduced the variance to 38 feet. Variance required.
Shown on the survey too.
It is. There's a chart on the left-hand side of the survey that shows where it is now and
Oh,
where it's
okay.
going to be.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
There was a recommendation in the TAM that we would do more re-veg back in between the wetlands and the residents, and this new survey seems to reflect that.
Correct.
Is that the effort you've made to try to move more vegetation to that area?
Yeah, there's more in that area, plus there's some around the IA upgrade, and also to the right of the IA are the trees he wants to preserve. Excuse me.
May I ask you about the bamboo barrier? So is it going to, maybe it's on the survey, so forgive me if I didn't see it, but is it going all around that area
Of the
of
bamboo?
bamboo? Or is it just going on like one?
No, it's going to go all around. In fact, the neighbor next door, Jill Lapomi, is actually really pleased with this because it'll keep it from spreading onto her property.
Right.
And we're trying to keep it from spreading into the wetlands.
And was there a pro and con of, well, no, there is pro and con, but was there a thought about just actually removing it all or?
It's a good privacy screen. I mean, it is invasive, but the root barrier will stop that invasive nature.
And it's a dense area.
Very.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, I just wanted to
I
ask.
mean, it's just,
Yeah, I just want to ask. And then,
that would be almost mitigation to control it. That would be mitigation to control it, the root barrier.
Correct.
understood. I was just asking the. And then the existing clearing that went onto the neighboring property, it says to be allowed to regrow naturally. So that, when did that clearing, so the applicant sort of accidentally cleared into another property?
Usually happens in these instances is a lawnmower does it.
Okay.
Did it with the lawnmower, we don't know. But they are going to leave it alone and stop mowing it.
Okay,
Any other questions?
I have no
I
question.
have a curiosity question. This has on the corner that there's a proposed well. Isn't there a well already?
Yes,
somewhere?
but it was too close to the existing, other proposed septic system, so
Oh,
they
okay, I
had
didn't
to.
see where it was, so, yeah, okay.
All right.
Are we good?
You know where the existing well is?
Yeah, the existing well is here.
Oh, it's right next to the house, very close to the wetlands, in the basement, I see. That's why you don't see it.
You see it?
No, it's in the-
Oh, okay, I was gonna say, I don't see it.
Oh, a lot of these old
Yes.
did have it in the basement, that's
Yes.
correct. Okay, thank you. We'll
Thank you.
hear from planning. Tyler?
Tyler Borsak for the Planning Department.
Tyler, do you swear firm to tell the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, thank you. The subject property is situated on the southwest corner of Will Curl Highway and 3 Mile Harbor, Hawk Creek Highway in Springs. Overall, the project represents a moderate amount of construction on a constrained property within setbacks and jurisdiction of significant wetlands. The project as a whole is in keeping with the board's past practices, but there are aspects that require closer examination to see if they meet the standards or if there are reasonable alternatives, which may better protect the long-term health of 3 Mile Harbor, many of which, or all of which, have been addressed by the applicant. The parcel is located adjacent to wetlands, which are part of the Tidal Creek tributary of 3 Mile Harbor. This swamp is connected to the harbor south of Breeze Hill Road by a combination of vector ditches and tidal creeks. 3 Mile Harbor is a New York State significant fish and wildlife habitat and a component of the Peconic Estuary Critical Environmental Area. The harbor is extensively used for commercial and recreational water-dependent activities, and its overall health and productivity are intrinsic to the economic well-being of the township. Activities that occur around this wetland system have the potential to impact the water quality of the wetlands, as well as tidal wetlands of 3 Mile Harbor far beyond the borders of each individual parcel. The project as proposed will increase the size of the 650 square foot residence, 967 square feet, the decking on the property from 511 to 693, and add a new 225 square foot workshop in a conforming location. Additionally, new walkways are proposed to replace walkways which will be removed. The proposed addition to the residence is located in what would be the most conforming location available north of the existing residence. There is the potential to increase impacts or decrease impacts by adding a second story rather than expanding the footprint. However, given the small size of the existing residence and the size of the addition, the change in lot coverage is minimal. The additional proposed decking is similarly a minimal change to the parcel. It appears that the decking was added to the east side of the parcel at some point after the most recent CO was issued, and the applicants are looking to legalize this decking, add to it slightly, and include a roof covering over a portion of that decking. This area has long been improved with decking since at least prior to the 2001 aerial images, and additional decking is minimal. The proposed workshop is located in a conforming location, 101 feet from wetlands, and also meeting the 30-foot front yard and 10-foot side yard lot line setbacks. The proposed workshop is located partially in an area of the existing driveway and is accompanied by the removal of a shed, which is non-conforming to wetland setbacks, side yard setbacks, and pyramid regulations. The application also includes the legalization of an existing air conditioning unit within the front yard lot line setbacks of 3 Mile Harbor. This area is well vegetated. The structure is relatively small, and being such a busy road, the impacts on the neighborhood are likely minimal. The shower was relocated to a more conforming location as we had suggested, doubling the setback. Essentially was what we had suggested take place to try and minimize those impacts as much as we can. The planning department had concerns with the relocation of the driveway, which the applicants have abandoned and are opting to continue the use of the existing driveway location. As mitigation for the project, the applicants are proposing to revegetate a small buffer to the wetlands. They have increased that slightly, as we had suggested. But the planning department would also suggest revegetating that area that was cleared onto the neighboring property to give it something to sort of get a foothold or to somewhat help prevent invasive species from coming in. It's always best to start with native vegetation rather than just sort of letting it go and hoping for the best. The application also includes an upgrade to the existing sanitary system, which is greatly increasing the existing setback, significantly improving both the design and location. The sanitary system upgrade may not be a voluntary mitigation, as the size of the addition may make the upgrade compulsory, but it does not diminish from the overall benefit of the relocation and the upgrade. Other than that, I can answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any questions for Tyler? Board members?
I have no questions.
Can you just repeat what you said about adding more re-veg? Were you saying the part of where they're saying they're going to stop mowing, or I wasn't
Right,
following?
yeah, the
Okay.
area where they're suggesting just to revegetate naturally, we would suggest putting something in there to kickstart it rather than sort of letting it go.
Would it be the whole thing, or would it be kind of the part that's towards on the, I guess it's the northeast?
Whatever's on that neighboring property that isn't
The whole thing?
proposed to be revegetated, yeah.
Okay, or even
They
a
are
part of
proposing
it.
a vegetated buffer, and then behind that is proposed to just sort of happen naturally. We would suggest they
But
do.
that's not something we can enforce on the board, right? If it's off their property line, we don't have jurisdiction over that. Is that
I
correct?
guess it's a legal question. I think it's town property.
Town owns the property.
Yeah, the town owns the property, so we,
So it'd be a suggestion
They
from the
cleared it.
planning department, but I don't know
Yeah.
if we can.
Yeah.
We can
it's a legal
require
question
that.
if you can require it or not.
Not our jurisdiction.
If they cleared it.
But who cleared it?
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Is there anybody in the public that would like to address this application? No, Matt, is there anybody online?
We have no callers on the line.
Thank you. Laurie, do you have any closing comments? Okay,
I mean, I was with, but I don't think we can revegetate on town property.
No, so it's a little difficult. It will grow in, and, yeah, that's
all
all.
right, thank you. We're close.
In the matter of the application of Norman Henry Leathers Living Trust, 4 Will Curl Highway, Springs, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-94-6-17.2, I make a motion that we close the public hearing and record.
Concur.
Concur.
Concur, thank you. Thank you. Next, we have John Marino at 63 Benson Drive in Montauk, Suffolk, tax map number 300-30-1-20. The size and location is 7,320 square feet at 63 Benson Drive, Oceanside at Montauk, lot number 166, filed August 7th, 1957. Map number 2730 in Montauk. The description is to allow a reconstruction of an existing deck within wetland setbacks to remain and legalize an existing shed and outdoor shower that are within the minimum wetland setbacks. Relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 and 2 variances of 29.3 feet and 63.8 feet pursuant to 255-430 of the East Hampton Town Code to allow a shed to remain 70.7 feet and a shower to remain 36.2 feet from a wetland where 100-foot setbacks are required and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is B residence, AE, zone AE, elevation 9, the secret class is type 2. Council, do we have proper affidavit of service of posting?
Yeah, I reviewed the affidavits of notice and posting, and everything seems to be in order, and the board has jurisdiction.
Thank you. Member.
Also, just as a heads up, I don't know if there's a chance the power is going to cut out around 7, just so everyone's aware. It might not, but just keep,
Mr. Johan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a picture of the posting. It was properly posted. Next, please. Here I am looking eastward on Benson. Give you an idea of the character of the neighborhood. This is down in Ditch Plain. Next, please. I'm turning, I'm looking westward. Same thing. We're very familiar with both this street and other streets in this area from previous hearings. Next, please. I'm just slightly out of order walking around, but you'll get the feeling here. We're looking at the one side of the house as I'm coming in. This is the east side of the house. Next. Here's a staircase going up to an existing deck. We're going to talk about that deck as it wraps around towards Benson Drive and continues on. Next. I just want to give you an idea behind there. Through there is the highway is back, Montauk Highway is back through there. So there's vegetated buffer between the back of the house and the highway. Next. And again, this was off in the other corner. I just wanted to show you it's pretty continuous and it comes around back behind the house. So there's a pretty good buffer between this and everything to the north. Next. There's a shed that's going to be in discussion tonight. That's a picture of where it sits behind the house now. There's a discussion of how it may or may not be moved. Next. This is a picture looking at the deck that again will be part of the discussion. Wants to be extended slightly to what you see here, be the east, be rebuilt, continued around on the west side of the house, back to that staircase. Next. Is that it? Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Do we have the agent here? How are you, Tara?
Good evening, Chairman and members of the board. Tara Burke from Lighthouse Land Planning here on behalf of the Marinos.
Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. Thank you. Thanks, Morgan, for the photos. As was stated, 2 variances and a natural resource special permit are being requested for this application. The entire house is within wetland jurisdiction, making it impossible to keep the proposed improvements greater than 100 feet from the wetlands. The application consists of the reconstruction of existing deck within wetland setbacks, and the work has partially been completed, and for the legalization of an existing prefabricated shed and an outdoor shower. While the homeowner's original plan was to simply replace the deck boards and do general maintenance of the 1971 deck, upon commencing the task, it was realized that large portions of the framing were compromised and needed to be replaced. Because the property is in wetland jurisdiction, a natural resource special permit is required for this activity. A stop work order was issued and the application was submitted immediately upon receiving word that this was required. The planner's technical analysis memo mentions some minor discrepancies with the footprint of the existing deck from the one shown on the 1971 CO survey. Since the survey is from 1971 and the survey at hand is from 2025, it's entirely possible that this is just a simple surveyor's margin of error. The differences were negligible, and I think this one was actually smaller. The footprint of the deck that exists is exactly the same as that which was present before the reconstruction began. The original deck was on the certificate of occupancy survey from 1971, although it was listed on the CO as a 44 square foot deck for reasons we cannot understand. Perhaps that was a typographical error. The deck is clearly present from that time on the historical aerial photos, as is confirmed by the Suffolk County GIS database from 1978 and 1984 from their website. And the deck was also part of the original construction, as was reflected on that CO survey. The outdoor shower, upon reviewing of the site conditions in the CO survey, when this came in my lap, it came to our attention that the outdoor shower wasn't on the CO survey, although the property owner, who is the original owner, indicates that it's been in existence since that time as well. Since the CO was from 1971, it's entirely possible that this was omitted from the verbiage due to the fact that wetland jurisdiction didn't yet exist at that time, and a typical outdoor shower doesn't need a building permit. Because of the tree canopy, it's not clear on historical aerial photos. Nonetheless, the required variance has been requested as part of the application. Also, as part of this application, we're proposing a dry well to contain any runoff. At present, due to the age of the shower, there's no formal drainage system present, and we would like to improve the situation with the dry well in the preferred location by the planning department and the board. There's also a small 48 square foot prefabricated shed, which you saw in one of those photos, that was installed a couple years ago, included in this application. The shed sits flush with the house and is located as far from the wetlands as possible while still meeting the side yard setback. The planning department's technical analysis memo indicated that the shed could be pulled closer to the front of the property line, making the distance from the wetlands further, decreasing the variance requested, which is 70.7 feet. While we agree that this is possible as the crow flies, as shown on the photo that I had submitted and the one that was put up on the screen, the shed is nestled in the nook of the chimney of the house, which is next to the chimney bump out. And on the photo that I submitted, it's actually zoomed out a little bit. So you can see that in front of the chimney, there's no room up against the house. Pulling the shed further to the south towards Benson Drive would require to stick out further into the side yard setback, making it non-compliant with that setback, therefore needing a variance for that. The existing location is on the side of the house, with the house being between the shed and the wetland that is within jurisdiction. Relocating it would cause further unnecessary disturbance, and we believe that the environmental impacts of its location is minimal to none in the overall health of the closest wetland to the north and to the west of the house. And then I did submit in writing answers to the variance standards and how we believe we address them. I'm not sure it's necessary for me to go through them all since they are in writing in your record, but if you have any questions, I'm certainly happy to do that. And then just quickly, my John Marino, who is the son of Claire and Angelo, who are in the audience, was supposed to be here, but he got stuck in traffic. So he had something really short prepared that I'm going to read to you. He said, "My family has been coming to Montauk since the early 70s. My Aunt Ann and Uncle Joe moved out to Montauk from the Bronx around 1972. My Uncle Joe was an avid fisherman and in retirement decided to move out to Montauk after visiting for decades. They bought 63 Benson Drive, and my parents would also often visit in the mid-70s. The outdoor shower was there when they moved in because my aunt insisted that my uncle shower outside after fishing all day." And I'm happy to submit an affidavit if needed. I'm sure she'd be happy to. The deck was also very similar to the present measurements as evidenced in the survey from when the house was built in 1971. There was also a wood shed that my uncle built in the backyard to house his lawnmower and other tools. In 1987, my aunt and uncle moved back to the Bronx due to failing health and lack of adequate medical coverage in Montauk. My parents, Angela and Claire, bought the house in 1987. The shed was taken down in the backyard and trees were planted all over the yard. And that was shown in some of those photos of the vegetative buffer. My father has always taken pride in our plantings and the natural wall of privacy we have. In 2016, my parents sold the house to my sister and myself due to different bills and financial obligations they faced. We have owned the house since then, and we do not rent it out. We use the house as a family house and enjoy every minute we can out there. We make trips to the house all winter long, spending most Thanksgiving out there and taking advantage of long weekends. We chose the spot for the shed because it's the most out of the way and it didn't interfere with the bottom of the chimney or the electric meter. We also chose a spot that was not blocking any windows of the house. The shed is not large, measures 8 by 6, and is on wood supports, not concrete. We use the shed to store bikes and miscellaneous children's toys, along with some light gardening tools. And that's it.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, so I may have misspoke when I said that there would be a deck extension. Are you saying that the deck we're seeing here is merely a replace in kind?
Yes, that's correct. So you can see on the, yes, it's exactly the same as the CO survey. There's the stairs that go up there. These stairs have not been built yet. The ones on the, I guess that's the east side, because they got the stop work order and stopped doing everything. But those stairs will be put in if and when they.
Stairs are replacing an existing set of stairs and
Correct.
not an extension.
That's
So
correct.
I thought that was perhaps coming out. And then the other thing is that in terms of the drywall you're going to put in for the septic, for the outdoor
Outdoor
shower.
shower. Mhm.
And that will be coordinated with, you've already said, with the, because that's going to be critical to that location,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Can you just confirm the date of the survey?
The current survey?
Yeah, the latest one.
The one that I have here is
Yeah, right. Didn't you just give us a new one?
updated and certified September 23rd, 2024. And then I may have submitted another one since then, since now that everything's digital. I don't have all the hard copies in front of me, but that's the hard copy.
9/23/24.
Yep. So it's the received September 22nd. Good.
Any other questions?
None for me, thank you.
Thank you. Morgan, how are you?
Good evening, Board. Morgan Slater for the Planning Department.
Morgan, do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So this property is on the north side of Benson Drive in the Ditch Plains neighborhood, which is located southwest of Lake Montauk. This area contains many freshwater wetlands that have been fragmented and manipulated as a result of development. This wetland system is part of Lake Montauk watershed, and much of the surface and groundwater flows into Lake Montauk. Many of the residences were constructed prior to modern zoning, resulting in properties and structures that are pre-existing non-conforming to wetland setbacks, which is the case for the subject property. The closest wetland to the structures in need of relief is on the north side of the property. And the outdoor shower is the closest structure to the wetland. The wetland setback variance for the shower can be considered as substantial. The board should keep in mind that there are similarly constrained properties within this neighborhood. The shed is in a more conforming area with regard to the northern wetland while maintaining the minimum property line setbacks. The planning department does not anticipate substantial environmental impacts from the shed, though it does appear possible for the setbacks to be maximized by shifting the location of the shed more south. The current deck dimensions differ slightly from those depicted in the 1971 CO, but the difference is not substantial enough to introduce an increased environmental detriment. And I want to confirm that the most recent survey in the file is the one dated September 23rd, 2024.
Any questions?
No.
No. Thank you, Morgan. Any comments from any public, from the public? Anybody online?
We have no callers online.
Sarah, you have any closing comments?
I just want to just reiterate to the board that I'm happy to submit an affidavit that the shower has been there before wetland setbacks came into
Sarah, thank you.
play. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ed?
Yes, just 1 second. Then in the application of John Marino, 63 Benson Drive, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-30-1-20, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing and the public record at this time.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Thank you. Next, we have Chris Poley at 54 Firestone Road in Montauk, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-17-2-34.1. Size and location is 39,994 square feet at 54 Firestone Road, Montauk. The description is to remove a wood deck, window well, and walkways, and to construct a 448 square foot addition with approximately 310 square feet of decking and porches within jurisdiction and setbacks of wetlands. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the East Hampton Town, and 2 variances are required for this application. Variances of 46 feet, 48 feet are required from 255-430 of the Town Code to construct the proposed porch 54 feet and addition 52 feet from wetlands where 100-foot setbacks are required and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is A2 residence, zone X flood zone, and secret class is type 2. And council, do you have proper affidavit of surface and posting?
I reviewed the affidavits of notice and posting, and everything seems to be in order, and the board has jurisdiction.
Thank you.
It's fine, yeah. Okay, this is the service of posting, and next, Tyler, I'd just like to take a close-up so you can read the date and time. Next, this is the garage. I drove down the driveway. This is the garage that was put in last year, I believe it was. Next. Now I just took a shot, I turned and just took a shot of the neighbor to the north on that road. Next. This is a view from the parking area. The new septic system is toward the right where that table is, and the house is, the proposed addition is toward the left side of that picture, but we'll see more. Next. Okay, now I'm standing basically right next to the garage, and this gives you an overall view of the area that they're proposing the additions, and you can see this the walkway toward the house. Next. This is nothing that's being requested at this, but I did just want to get a view of some of the property, and this goes all the way down to the water and to the shoreline, and we've had previous hearings on this. I'm going to take a couple of shots of the walkway down to the water. Next. Okay, and they're out of order. Okay, so this is the back porch where they're, well, not where, the current house, but this is the back porch that had been part of a previous ZBA determination. And you can see there's a lot of grading changes here. It's pretty steep going downhill all the way to the water. Next. Now this is a shot I'm taking from that same area, but I'm looking back to where the area of the addition is being proposed on this side of the house. Next. I took a shot, I walked down to the beach line and just took a shot of some of they have some boats and kayaks and things laying along the way, but that's a wide swath that they have going down there now. And is that the list? Another one? Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Do we have the agent? Who are you, Joe?
Good evening.
You swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Can you tell us who you are?
Good evening, Chairman Delaney and board members. Joel Halsey, on behalf of Lighthouse Land Planning, representing Chris Poley and Laura Michaels, the owners of the subject property. Chris and Laura are both in the audience tonight. Although the application previously proposed and approved on this above reference on the reference property was an all-around great project, it was determined not to be feasible. The applicant had proposed to reuse the existing fisherman's cottage and move it upland. Then to construct a large addition to that fisherman's cottage. This project could have been done without reusing the cottage, but that was not the intent. Chris Poley, the property owner, desired to reuse the existing fisherman's cottage. This cottage had survived for 8 to 9 decades, and although not a historic structure, he would like to keep this small bit of Montauk in Montauk and not inside a landfill. As it exists, the current house is a 900 square foot, 1-story fisherman's cottage. Chris and Laura have been in this home for about 7 years now, and they have invested both money and memories into this structure. When the house was inspected by the engineer to move the house after the ZBA approval, it was determined the move would be difficult. And per the engineer's memo submitted to the file on October 2024, The engineer states, while most structures can be moved with enough reinforcement and planning, the cost of moving older structures becomes risky and can be prohibitively expensive. Further complicating the relocation is the need for the structure to be lifted, moved uphill, and pass over the newly installed low-nitrogen sanitary system and leaching field. Furthermore, it is quite likely that the heavy equipment needed to move the structure could not easily gain access due to the relatively narrow and winding access driveway to the property. It was also determined by the engineer that adding a second story would not be a feasible option, and that is why we are proposing a small lateral addition to the residence tonight. The previous application approved a house to be 2,585 square feet, which also included a 202 square foot basement area and approximately 1,194 square feet of decking and covered porches. The house as proposed today will only be 1,348 square feet. With the addition proposed in the most conforming location, this increase will be a 49% increase, which is very close to the maximum allowable 50% cap. And just saying that makes the project sound like an enormous proposal. I'd like to give the board a little anecdote. Most of you have at least seen my daughters, but when my daughters were younger, they would see things on sale and say to me, wow, that's 50% off. Can I get it? To which I would say 50% off something that's expensive is still expensive. They were young and did not understand this, but today they do. Depending on what it was and how expensive it was, they might have actually gotten it because I am a sucker for my daughters. To that point, it was brought up in the TAM that we were proposing an almost 50% increase in gross floor area. To that I say a 50% gross floor area addition to a very small house is a very small addition. This is the case in this application. We have a house that is only 900 square feet, which we are proposing to add 448 square feet to it. When all is said and done, this will be a modest 1,348 square foot house. In fact, the town recognizes that smaller homes should be allowed to exceed the 50% cap and has a workaround in the code to the 50% cap for smaller houses. This does not affect this house since it is greater than 799 square feet. That said, if the house was smaller than 800 square feet, they could construct up to 1,200 square feet. That is because I believe the code recognizes that a 50% cap may not be the fairest code, fairest of all the town codes. If this house had been 2,000 square feet, this addition would appear smaller since at this point, we would only be doing a 22% expansion to the house. But the house would now be a medium-sized house at 2,448 square feet or 1,100 square feet bigger than what we are proposing today. But as previously stated, 50% of a small number is a small number. To that I say a 49.8% gross floor area addition to the very small house is still a small house. This is the case in this application. We have a small house that is 900 square feet. The addition is 448 square feet, and will be located in the most conforming location on the property, and within a cleared area on the property as well. To that point, this is the minimum variance necessary in order to do an addition to this small cottage. It is mentioned in the technical analysis memo that further increases on the sanitary may not be appropriate. The sanitary has not changed from the previous location, nor will it. Whether the effluent flowed from the large residence previously approved or the smaller residence currently proposed, the location of where the effluent would go is still going to be the same spot. In fact, it could be argued that this will create less of a flow than the previous approval, which was a house that would be 2,585 square feet. The sanitary system was approved at 6 bedrooms. The proposed project will have only 3 bedrooms, which does include the 1 bedroom on the affordable accessory apartment. That said, the proposal now has far less potential intensity of use when you go from a possible 6 bedrooms to a total of only 3 bedrooms. The TAM brings up the affordable accessory apartment, in which the planning department states, especially after the construction of a 600 square foot garage with 600 square foot affordable accessory apartment has taken place already, taking up some of the most conforming location available for future development on this property. To that point, in the previous approval, this space was available for future development and is no longer available now. So either way, this location would have been available had the applicant built a much larger residence as previously approved, or builds the proposed much smaller 2-bedroom cottage. Furthermore, the TAM states the project will greatly increase the impermeable surface within close proximity to the wetlands. The increase will be 448 square feet of residential structure and 310 square feet of decking. This is a modest increase at best. If comparing the increase as a percentage to what currently exists, then maybe it is a great increase. However, comparing a proposed modest increase to an existing small development is still a modest increase, not a great increase as mentioned within the technical analysis memo. The two variances are not substantial, and as stated, they are the minimum variance necessary, since this addition is proposed in the most conforming location. A recent approval within this area was for a property at 82 Fleming, which required a substantial bluff crest variance, a wetland variance, and a 290 square foot coverage variance for a modest 290 square foot addition. This is only 100, we are proposing only 158 square feet less than what was approved at 82 Fleming, sorry. And 82 Fleming did require 3 variances. As I said, a bluff crest variance, a wetland variance, and a lot coverage variance. As the board has seen, I recently submitted copies of a revised survey. This depicts a proposed scenic easement of 10,563 square feet. This scenic easement will encumber more than 27% of the property. The application at 82 Fleming did not propose a scenic easement, nor was one required. Thank you for taking your time in reviewing this application. The planning department's TAM states the applicant must demonstrate compliance with the variance standards of section 255-8-50, and this has been addressed in the memo that I did submit to the board, I believe last week. If the board has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So is the accessory apartment detached, is that GFA calculated in the GFA here?
It technically it would by code, I believe it would. Yes, I'd have to double check that, but yes.
Should include it, yeah.
So I'm just, so with the GFA added, the total GFA here is still less than the previously, including the accessory?
That would be correct. We'd be at 1,948 square feet.
But there's also a 600 square foot garage, doesn't count just.
But that doesn't.
I know, but I'm just, it's additional structure
That is correct.
out of wetland jurisdiction, but on the property.
100% out of, as it's within as of right building permit jurisdiction.
Still added structure.
Which could have been added after the big house was built too. Now we'd have 3,148
No,
square
that
feet of
wasn't in
structure, or 58 square feet of structure.
That, I hear all your comparisons to the last approval, but one big difference I see in that is this is staying much closer to the wetlands where that house was going to be moved
That house was not moved.
75 feet.
82 Fleming did not move. It was in addition to that.
I'm not talking about
Fleming.
82, I'm talking about
Oh, I'm
54.
sorry, okay.
We're here for 54.
Well, you said comparison, okay, yes.
Comparing
Okay.
54, what you're not implementing now versus
Correct,
what
okay.
was approved.
Yes.
So that's a pretty big difference to me. Are you offering any other mitigation besides the?
Well, there is an
CDBG?
upgraded sanitary system on the property.
That was already there.
I mean, what other mitigation would you like?
Revegetation, maybe?
I believe that we will have that as part of it. We'll
We'll
be
hear from
within
the
the,
planner.
what?
We'll hear from the planner on that.
This,
I mean, 82 Fleming, which required a coverage variance, required a substantial bluff crest variance, and required a wetland variance.
Okay, I don't know
Nothing
the
was required in that.
circumstances of 82 Fleming. I'm here about 54.
I know, I understand, but this is, I'm trying to compare it to other approvals in the area, and this is literally a 2-minute walk.
Yeah, but we're reviewing this tonight, so we can forget about 82 for now. You want to go on?
yeah, the survey shows you're proposing an easement, but the survey is showing edge of clearing that is within that easement, that proposed easement. It
Yes.
seems to be larger than or wider than a 4-foot pathway.
Yes.
What's your intention here?
We would like to maintain a pathway to the water, obviously. If we could have, a 5-foot, walkway to the water, 6-foot walkway to the water.
That's not your question, is it?
That wasn't my question. No, I mean, I would assume that, so are you going to revegetate in that area? Because it's much wider than 5 or 6 feet, and 4 feet is typical, right? Is what's
Yes.
typical.
If that's a requirement, then, I would like to bring that, my client is here tonight, the property owner is here tonight. You could ask him. I know he did want to get up and speak to the board.
Permission generally through an easement is granted for a 4 or 5 foot wide walkway. The question is, there's a lot more clearing there than that. Is that easement going to be closed back down to have simply a 4 or 5 foot walkway? Everything within the easement going to be revegetated other than the walkway?
that, again, Mr. Polly is here tonight. I'll let him, that'll be a question that you can ask what he would like to do with it. I cannot answer that right now because we have not discussed that.
And one other thing I'd like to say is that the previous approval in 2023 I was part of really was dependent on the fact that there was a retreat back from the waterfront. So the addition seemed to make sense to us at that point because the retreat was a much better guarantee and protection of the wetland.
And again, that
We're not retreating now.
That retreat was contingent on, they wanted to keep this residence.
Yeah.
They cannot keep this residence. This is something they do not want to get rid of. It was determined that they couldn't move it. And now they're coming back to the board for a much smaller residence. And had this back in 2000, had we approved, a 500 square foot, or it wouldn't be a 448 square foot addition back then to the smaller residence and not the retreat, maybe the project would have looked much better then because we didn't propose the retreat.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're comparing something that was approved and can't be done to something that can be done and is much smaller and probably a better project overall.
One of the clarifications on the engineer report might be that it didn't say it couldn't be done. It said it was going to be more expensive than the applicant wanted to achieve. The house could be moved. Every house can be moved, but that particular restructuring was going to be expensive enough.
And risky.
Well, either way, house movers could move it. But the point is, that's part of a factor that might have been factored into the 2023 approval. We came forward at the time, got an approval to move the house. After that approval was granted, said, well, it was actually too expensive to move the house. These are changes of conditions. So comparing it to the 2023, this is a whole nother perspective for us to look at. That's all I'm trying to establish.
He does say expensive, but he also uses the word prohibitively expensive.
Yeah.
But, oh, I'm sorry. So I was not on the board at the time of the 23, but so I did go back and I watched the public hearing. And your partner, Andy Hanmer, was representing the Poleys. And at the time he said about the move, quote, it's structurally sound. The client has every intention of the relocation has been evaluated and deemed feasible by several house movers, including Dawn, that specializes in this type of work. It's a really nice house and it is structurally sound. Can you just work through a little bit of the timing?
Discuss that. He's got some history. I'm going to let Mr. Poley discuss that. He's got some history on that.
Oh, okay, because I just wanted, if I may, that was approved. I think the determination was November of 2023. Obviously, it's changed, and then only within a few months of getting that determination, there was an application for the garage and the accessory structure. So if you could just sort of square around the timing of what happened versus.
Yeah, I'll let Mr. Poley come up for that.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Say that the comments that were made by Mr. Hammer came from your office, so Mr. Poley can address it, but it's basically going back to the review of that hearing where it was a fairly strong statement on behalf of the application.
I understand. Mr. Poley has some history on this, so I'm going to let him speak to it. I can't, so I'm going to let him speak to it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, you can come on, Mr. Poley. Yeah.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Do I need to raise my hand?
You swear for him to tell the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, thank you for this opportunity to give you some background on this. I know it's been before some of you, and I think it's questions are good questions, and I want to try to answer them. We purchased the house in 2018. We fell in love with the house because it is what we consider to be a historic and picturesque slice of Montauk. We felt strongly that the house deserved a renovation because of that historic aspect of it. Well, it's not Carl Fisher, it's 1940s, and it is part of Montauk. The cottage is 900 square feet. Laura and I lived there and made do, for a while until COVID hit. We were tiptoeing around each other most of the time. When COVID hit, it became increasingly clear that we needed more space. There was no way around it. We have no privacy, no closet space. We have no kitchen cabinets, a small little pantry. When people come over, we scramble to take things out of the living space, which is, loaded with all our stuff, and put it into a bedroom so we can entertain and we don't look like hoarders. It's an embarrassing situation. Basically, at the same time, actually, that we felt we needed more space, our daughter was in desperate need of housing. And we made it a point to try to keep all our kids in the area to the extent they want to live here. And I think it's hard in this day and age without parental assistance for these kids to live here. So we hired an architect who we've since fired. He evaluated our needs. And because of the restrictive nature of the lot, which is one of the reasons we're here, he recommended moving the house back. I did have, I don't know which one it was, and I'm not going to say, I don't think I had two house movers, so Andy may have been embellishing a little bit, but I did have somebody. They want the business, so they came in. I think it was their assistant. Took a quick look. Oh yeah, we could do anything, and that was my comfort. The architect didn't have any concerns because he didn't really look at it that carefully either. Drew up plans. We paid a lot of money to draw up these plans, come before the ZBA. We're trying to do the right thing. For those of you who know me and know Laura, we're very environmentally sensitive. We are involved in a lot of community things, and that's why we wanted to approach it in that manner. So we went in with the best application we could. Unfortunately, it was not an application that could be executed. When I hired, I was pleased that the ZBA approved the application, very grateful about that. It would have resulted in 2,600 square feet. It would have given us ample space, really the way we wanted to go. But when I hired the contractor brought in the engineer. I didn't bring in the engineer. And the contractor didn't want to be on the hook if something went wrong. So the engineer takes a look at it, and it's 2x6 girders that are sandwiched. There are 3 of them together. Okay, that's what the house is sitting on. And then the walls, the exterior walls are 2x4. The floor joists are 2x6 and 2x4s on the flat, mixed. I wasn't aware of this. The engineer poked around and pointed this out. So when he says it's difficult, it really is impossible, okay? The house, anything is possible, as I'm sure some of you who are in the construction business know, if you spend enough money and reinforce it enough and build it up and make it, to the point where you might as well not bother, So of course that's the out he puts in there, but really, frankly, it's impossible, okay? And I don't have that kind of money, nor did I want to take that kind of risk, nor can the equipment come down that winding hill. I mean, you all drove down that hill, so you know what it's like. There's no way you're going to get heavy equipment down that hill unless I clear out the whole hill, which I'll be back, with other, asks about clearing, So we're basically, we basically then, had to shift gears rapidly. Our daughter was in desperate need of housing, and we knew we weren't going to get an application before the ZBA that could be approved, that could, that we could satisfy our daughter's needs. So as parents, we, dropped our needs and addressed our daughter's needs. And what we did is, the most expedient way to get her housing was to do an affordable housing. The town's been talking about it. It's been something that's, been promoted. We thought it would be a good solution for us, and then we would address our needs afterwards. So we quickly built an affordable housing unit, which we're thrilled with. Our daughter lives in it. It's great that, that we have her with us. And now we're here focused on our needs. And our needs are small. This is This is a 448 square foot addition. How many of you live in 900 square feet? We're talking about, we're a local family. This is our primary residence. This is not a luxury. This is a necessity, I guess, we could continue to tiptoe around each other and hope our relationship lasts, but it's a necessity, And, we're simply here to ask you to please approve 448 square feet. It's only 2 variances that are under 50 feet. I mean, that's all we're asking for, and then obviously a natural resource special permit. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to express how I feel about this. As you can see, I'm very passionate, and it's very important to us.
We asked earlier about the easement and the pathway to the easement.
We're happy to provide, if you would give us 5 feet, we would be happy to do so.
Thank you. Any other questions, board members?
No.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. Turn to the planning department.
Tyler Borsak for the Planning Department. So the parcel is located on the northwest end of Firestone Road, fronting on Fort Pond Bay in Montauk. The current application is requesting approvals in order to construct 448 square feet of additions to the existing residence, along with 310 square feet of decking and porches. The parcel is located contiguous to Fort Pond Bay, a deep water bay on the north side of Montauk, in one of the furthest reaches of the Peconic Estuary watershed. The lot is currently improved with 900 square feet of existing one-story residence, located approximately 33 feet from the edge of wetlands to the west. The property is within jurisdiction of several high-quality natural features, including a dune that borders the entire western side of the parcel, freshwater wetlands within close proximity to the existing improvements, and tidal wetlands. The tidal wetlands are the surface waters of Fort Pond Bay, which is a well-flushed open bay. The wetlands within jurisdiction of this project are freshwater wetlands, which are located landward of the coastal dune to the west, which extends up to the bottom of the hill, close to the residence in a depression, which is around 5-foot elevation. The current project is a proposal to construct a bedroom addition onto the existing 1-bedroom residence, along with decking and porches. The proposed addition is located approximately 52 feet from wetlands at the closest point, and the proposed porch is approximately 54 feet from wetlands. All the proposed structures are located more landward compared to the existing non-conforming residence and decking. The proposed addition constitutes a 49.8% expansion of the non-conforming residence, taking up the vast majority of the 50% limitations on the zoning board's ability to entertain an application for additions to the residence. While the application is in a slightly more conforming location compared to the existing residence, the nearly 50% variance request is substantial and needs close scrutiny. With a recently upgraded sanitary system located only 65 feet from wetlands and a new affordable accessory apartment on the property, which is connected to the same sanitary system, further increases in the impacts on the sanitary system may not be appropriate. A nearly 50% expansion of a significantly non-conforming residence with sanitary system located less than half the required setback is a significant request, and all alternatives need to be examined to determine if the applicant meets the variance and NRSP standards. Demolition of the existing residence and construction of a new conforming residence or more conforming residence may be more appropriate, considering consideration that better meets the NRSP and variance standards. The 50% cap section in 255-860 of the town code is a hard limitations on the board's ability to grant variances, not a guaranteed right to expansion. The applicant needs to show how the proposed project meets the appropriate standards. With a recent approval to completely redevelop the property in a conforming location, the applicant will need to address how that is not a reasonable alternative to the requested variances and how reducing the scale of that approval is not comparable to the proposed additions, especially after the construction of a 600 square foot garage with 600 square foot second story apartment has already taken place, taking up some of the most conforming available location for future development of the property. The proposed improvements will greatly increase the impermeable surfaces within close proximity of wetlands on a parcel with significant slopes, with little mitigation able to be offered to offset the impacts of those additions. The addition as is not even in the most conforming location and could be shifted 10 or 15 feet further east on the property in order to increase those setbacks even further. The applicants have proposed a scenic easement across the western portion of the parcel. Along with that easement, the board should require that the pathway to the west should be revegetated down to the standard 4-foot wide path. This pathway crosses through wetlands and over the dune. It's clearing within the wetland, and it should be narrowed to the standard 4-foot wide path to reduce the impacts as much as possible on those natural features. Other than that, I can answer any questions you might have.
Tyler, just to be clear, the 50% cap applies only to the existing residents. It's not cumulative because it's not conforming.
Correct.
It's not, it doesn't, we don't add in the conforming structure.
A non-conforming addition to the non-conforming building.
Thank you.
And the whole thing is non-conforming in this case, but.
Ask questions.
I just want to clarify, there's just, I think, a slight discrepancy between what I'm seeing on the survey distance from the wetland and what's noticed. It says the proposed porch 54 and the addition 52, but I feel like.
It's slightly closer if you measure to the northwest. I measured it myself. It's not noted on the survey.
Okay, I'm just looking at this.
The survey essentially doesn't note the closest point.
Okay, and I just want to clarify what I heard you said. So, because I know we've seen recently a number, all properties are different, right? But we've seen a number of 50% or very close to 50% non-conforming expansions of non-conforming houses. But in a lot of cases, I feel recently we've seen all of that be landward, right, or pushed back.
Sure.
So I just want to clarify what you said, which I think you said you see the opportunity potentially for an addition to be pushed further back, but so is there anything like in terms of just getting, it would be far enough away from the sanitary and like you see an envelope is what
I think certainly they can even just shift it east.
Right.
And it would probably still meet the separation from the leaching galley. I think it needs to be 10 feet from that. It looks like it would easily meet that. It would just be a matter of connecting them together, but
And being that
it was designed to be in line with that existing.
Being that it's an addition, do we know if that's architecturally feasible?
Right. I mean, obviously that they'd have to look at that, but just on paper, it appears that they could push it back.
I was only asking Tyler to expand on what he said.
And he has, okay, good. We're gonna move on.
Any other questions?
No, I'm good.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Joel?
Public.
Oh, is there anybody in the public who would like to address this application? Thank you, Ed. Is there anybody online?
We have no callers on the phone.
Great, Joel?
Again, to move it back 15 feet and pick up another 15 feet from the wetlands, it's feasible. It's definitely something that's doable, but however, it's not architecturally reasonable. I mean, you could look at the plans and you could see that. It just on paper, yeah, you can look at the survey and say, yeah, it's movable, but it's not feasible. It's not reasonable. It's, you're going to get yourself a small little attachment to both structures, and then all of a sudden you're going to have like a square behind a square. It doesn't make sense. Again, the fact that they're recommending the town's opinion, the planning department's opinion is for you to demolish the structure that the property owner wants to keep and build a much larger structure in a conforming location is unreasonable too. It doesn't make any sense. This is a small addition. It's an addition of 448 square feet to a 900 square foot residence. The addition is going to be 56 feet from or 54 feet from the wetlands, however Tyler measured it out to. And yes, I did call up Tyler to figure out why it was noticed differently, and he is correct. The wetland is a little bit closer between wetland flag 4 and wetland flag 5. But again, it's 1 foot, 2 foot, whatever it is. This is not a substantial variance. A substantial variance was always a variance when it was 50% or more of the required variance. We're not asking for more than 50 feet. We're asking for less than 50 feet. This is not a great increase in coverage. This is only, again, it's a 448 square foot addition with a little bit over 300 square foot decking. We're increasing the coverage by 300 and some odd, 700 square feet. Again, I'm going to go back to 82 Firestone, which is really within a 2-minute walk of this property. They required a 240 square foot coverage variance, which was given by this board to locate a house less than 50 feet from a bluff crest, and which required a wetland variance as well too. And, well, they upgraded the sanitary system, but they would have had to do that too. That wasn't really mitigation as well. They didn't require a scenic easement. We're doing 27% of this property into a scenic easement. And we're going to, according to the property owner, we will revegetate all except for a pathway to the water. That's pretty adequate mitigation for a 448 square foot addition to a small house.
Thank you.
Again, to recommend demolishing a small house just to get into a conforming location makes no sense.
Do we have a motion?
Probably into the public.
Yeah, they did the public. The application of Chris Coley, 54 Firestone Road in Montauk, tax map 300-017-02-34.1. Make a motion to close the public hearing and the public record.
Second.
Concur.
I concur.
I concur. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
Good night, Joel.
Hi, everyone.
Next, we have Joseph McCary and Kim Staller at 20 Bendigo Road in Amagansett, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-152-1-11.3. The size and location is 506,835 square feet. That's 11.635 acres at 20 Bendigo Road in Amagansett. The description is to construct a 4,373 square foot residence, 741 square foot attached garage, 1,424 square feet of covered decking, 1,616 square feet of uncovered decking, an outdoor shower, 865 square foot pool with associated pool equipment and fencing, sanitary system, pervious driveway, and to allow clearing and grading on a parcel containing freshwater wetlands, beaches, primary dunes, other dunes, and beach vegetation. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 and one variance of 13.3 feet from 255-440 of the town code to construct the fence 136.7 feet from the dune crest where 150 feet is required. The zoning district is A5 residence, AE 10 flood zone, and the secret class is 2. Council, do we have proper affidavit of service and posting?
Yes, I reviewed the affidavits of service and posting, and everything seems to be in order, and the board has jurisdiction.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. So this is a picture of the posting. It was posted on Bendigo, basically in front of right where the property meets the road. I know there might have been some expectations that it would have been at the driveway for the access road, but I believe this is the proper siting of the posting, and it was there. Next slide. Okay, this will be familiar, I know, to my fellow board members, since we had an application that related to this bridge and access road not that long ago. So this is the entry from Bendigo. You go across this bridge and you head towards a fairly long access road. Next slide. This is the water body that runs under that bridge. Next slide. Okay, so now this is the access road. Basically, the property in question is to the left, and I'm looking towards the next house to the east. I get confused on the next slide. When you come to the property, you're greeted by some very beautiful vegetation. I would imagine that's some sort of scrub oak that's right in the front of the property. Next slide. Excuse me. Okay, now I'm walking onto the property. It's the bluff crest and the water is in the distance. Just to show the different areas, there's beach grass, there's lichen, there's different woody shrubbery and stuff. Next slide. Again, I'm still walking towards the water. You can see the property's starting to rise a little bit. The bluff crest is in the difference where there's more, that darker vegetation. The vegetation changes on the property. Next slide. And by the way, there were no markings or anything relative to like where the CHA line is or where the envelope's going to be. So I was rough guessing. Okay, this is vegetation as you're rising up towards the bluff crest. Next slide. a little wider shot of that. I think, I don't know if you can see the house next door no, I think it'll be another slide. I tried to get shots of the house on the two properties on either side are already developed, as we know. Next slide. Okay, so that's at the top of what I believe the top of the bluff crest, looking at the water, and I'm going to turn my back to that and get a better shot of kind of the whole, what's going to be the building envelope. Next slide. Okay, that is the house. You'll remember this from 2 Bendigo, which is being developed on the other side of this house, and that wooden walkway. So I'm just looking towards that neighbor. Next slide. Okay, so now I have my back, I'm kind of, I think, close to the top of the bluff crest. So this is the area generally that is going to be developed. Just to get a panorama, the taller trees in the distance obviously is on the other side of the access road, and that's where all the marshland and all the not in play in a sense in the application because it's not being touched. Next slide. And just another shot of, again, panning around to the general area where I believe the development will be. Next slide. And then I took some more vegetation shots. You can scroll through the next 2. That's what it looks like. And you know me, I can never lay off a good shot of the lichen on these dune properties. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have the, right. Good evening. How are you?
Good evening.
Announce yourself.
Billy Hajak for the applicant.
Yeah. You swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
So good evening, Chairman Deline, members of the board. I'm Billy Hajak representing the applicants, Joseph McCary and Kim Staller. They're here this evening, as are members of the project team, which is Paul Massey from Bates Massey Architects, Jonathan Tarbett of Tarbett and Lester, and Rick Wesnowski from the Rayner Group. Just to start off, we did receive the technical analysis report prepared by Morgan. It was a very thorough review. We commend her for that. And also, a big thank you to her and Charlie for taking the time to meet with me leading up to this public hearing to work out some of the questions that I had. So as described in Morgan's report, it's a very large parcel, and it is very sensitive. We definitely agree to that. And it has some beautiful natural attributes, and its location and those characteristics are what drew Joe and Kim to purchase the property and decide to use it to build their home. Just a little background, they've been renting in Amagansett for about 25 years. They decided to try to purchase a home. They spent a few years looking for a home. They couldn't find anything that they were really attracted to. And so they found this parcel of land, decided to go all in and purchase it. They hired Bates Massey, obviously an award-winning architectural firm, to design their family home. And we're here to demonstrate that it fits within the dunescape, will be compatible with the neighborhood, and complies with all resources special permit standards. I'm going to apologetically submit a couple of documents to the board. We were trying to revise the plans with enough time to submit by Friday to address some of the comments contained in the Morgan's report, but we weren't able to get the surveys until today. So if it's okay, I'd like to submit them to the board, and I can briefly elaborate as to what those changes are. They're very minor in nature, and they actually eliminate the variance that we're requesting. So if it's okay, I can submit those to the board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And like I had indicated, we are withdrawing our request for the fence variance. So we were able to pull the fence to the south to meet the 150-foot setback. And in connection with pulling the fence back to meet the 150-foot setback, we were able to reduce the amount of clearing that was proposed in connection with the project. So we eliminated about a little over 2,500 square feet of clearing by migrating the fence closer to the proposed improvements. And then another minor change that we made was the Walbridge survey had inaccurately depicted the proposed project limiting fence. It didn't correspond to the limits of disturbance, which Morgan astutely picked up on during her review, so we've corrected that change. So the overall scope of the project remains the same. The house hasn't been changed, the pool hasn't been changed. It's just a retreat of the pool fence, reducing some of the clearing and correcting some of the errors on the plans. So the big picture and why we're here, it's the unique 11.6 acre parcel. Joe and Kim seek to build a 4,373 square foot home with an attached garage, decking, and a swimming pool. The natural resources permit is required because the property contains protected beach vegetation or dune vegetation, which was beautifully shown on the photographs. And then a certain number of improvements, including the parking area, the LP tank, and about a 7-foot triangle of the garage, I guess it'd be the southern corner of the garage, are within 150 feet of the wetlands. So the vast majority of the project is outside of wetland jurisdiction, and all the improvements meet the town's coastal setback or 150-foot dune crest setback. So it's largely about dune vegetation. All of the land, as indicated south of the driveway, common driveway, is going to be protected and untouched. All of the lands seaward of the coastal erosion hazard area line is going to remain untouched. The overall limits of temporary disturbance equate to 7% of the property, meaning 93% of the property doesn't get touched through the course of construction. Post-construction and revegetation, only 2.5% of the property is going to be cleared, which is essentially just the improvements. And so that means 97.5% of the property remains natural dune land vegetation. So I'd just like to address some of the specific comments in Morgan's report. We do agree with all the recommended mitigation or the summary of mitigation that's outlined in the report. With regard to the scenic easement, we would just ask the board to reconsider the amount of scenic easement. We'd be willing to cover the entire wetlands, but if you extend the scenic easement 100 feet north of the wetland, you're going to include the common driveway and the existing utilities and even the mouth of the driveway entering the Macari property. So we think it's appropriate to cover the wetlands and an area immediately adjacent to it, but giving some buffer to the common driveway in the event something decides to change in the future with the common driveway or utility. We wouldn't want a scenic easement burdening it, so maybe 10 feet south of the common driveway or something along those lines. But in the big picture, we're in agreement with the scenic easement. It's just where it ends. We don't want to burden the common driveway with it. There was a question relating to dewatering of the septic system or installation of the septic system. So due to the grades on site, it's a rather low-lying piece of property. The septic system treatment tank and the pump unit are proposed to extend slightly into the groundwater table. The Rayner Group had included a plan for dewatering within their construction protocol, and they're confident that it can be accomplished within the limits of clearing that we're proposing. It's going to be done by well, and the water is going to be quickly pumped, moved to a location on the property, allowed to percolate back into the sand. They can install the treatment unit and the pump station, and then the wells are removed and everything goes back to exactly the way it was. We believe this is our preferred alternative. We'd like to reduce the amount of fill that's required for covering the septic system or elevating the septic system. We don't want to add retaining walls. There are no retaining walls really with the project, and we'd like to avoid that. We'd like to maintain a gravity-fed system. It's gravity-fed into the treatment unit, and then there's a pump to get it into the shallow leaching field. So again, it's a temporary condition, and all that work is occurring beyond wetland jurisdiction and beyond the dune, 200 foot from the dune crest. There was a question about the house being constructed on piles, and the Rayner report not comporting with that. It is being constructed on piles. It's shown on sheet A301. The pilings are installed. There's a concrete foundation installed on top of the piles. It doesn't change the construction protocol in any way. It's still a standard, a fairly standard way of constructing in a FEMA flood zone. So I just wanted to elaborate on that and explain what the theory of the discrepancy was. There was a question to verify the house height. There's one of the elevations on the property shows there's a window in one of the chimneys, and I think you could see it on that view. I think, yeah, that's the area in question. So that's one of the chimneys. It doubles as a light well to bring light into the house. It's kind of a creative solution to add light into the house, and it's still a functioning chimney. It's actually been done on another project in the town. I was fortunate enough to work on that actually with Paul's office, and that was in the Georgica area of the town. And interestingly, that project went to the Architecture Review Board because it was adjacent to the Agricultural Overlay District. It's been issued a building permit and a C of O, and it's been in existence for a couple of years. And it's an architectural feature, but it is a chimney, and we don't think it the height limits apply to that feature of the house. In terms of the limits of disturbance, as I previously indicated, we were able to shave off a chunk of proposed clearing by about 2,500 square feet. And the remaining areas to be cleared, we think given the complexities of this property, its location, we really don't want to propose something that is either impossible to comply with. We think it's a very realistic proposed limit of disturbance. We need areas on site for stockpiling materials. We're going to stockpile sand so that we can use it for fine grading when the project is completed, so that the vegetation comes back and is restored. As noted in Morgan's report, preserving the native duneland soils is important so that we can restore the native habitat, and it is expected to rebound as long as we use those native soils. We think it's a pretty reasonable amount of clearing given the overall size of the property. When all said and done, 12,700 square feet of land is going to be cleared here, which is 11%, and that's based on the town's definition of lot area. In terms of the natural resources special permit standards, we believe that we're in compliance with those, both in terms of the plans, the construction protocol, and the materials that have been submitted to the board. The memorandum of law that was submitted by Jonathan Tarbutt's office provided some examples of projects in the area. In all of those instances, the improvements proposed herein are smaller, and in some cases, we are proposing even less disturbance, and those are on comparable lots with comparable site conditions. The Macquarie residence is over 270 feet from the edge of the beach. The house is 190 feet back from the primary dune crest. It's actually 40 feet more than is required. The setback is 150 feet, or 40 feet more than is required by code. We did submit some renderings to show what it looked like from the beach. We noticed that in the application at 2 Bendigo, the board had some questions about its appearance, so we did submit some renderings. It's a rather attractive house. It has some really nice roof lines, and we really do think, utilizing natural materials, we think it's going to blend in very nicely with the dunescape. In terms of the size of the improvements, the allowable gross floor area for this lot is 9,410 square feet. This residence is less than half of that, so we're at like 46% of what's permitted technically by zoning, or actually by the current GFA law. We're well below the coverage, the allowable coverage, and obviously well below the allowable total lot coverage. And the improvements will not adversely impact the primary dune. As I said, they're pulled way back from there. It's not going to destabilize the dune in any way. We don't think it's going to have any impact on the beach. And in terms of the freshwater wetlands component of it, there's only a small select area of the property that's within the actual jurisdictional limit of the wetlands, and that's consisting of a pervious gravel driveway, an in-ground LP tank, and about 7 feet of the garage area that's attached to the house. All the improvements are landward of the coastal erosion hazard area line, and we did secure a New York State Department of Environmental Conservation permit for the project. Their permit was issued focused on the freshwater wetland component of it, and it was outside of jurisdiction for coastal erosion, tidal wetlands, and the like. So that's about it. That sums up my presentation. There are other members of the team here if you have any specific questions that I can answer, but I'd be happy to try to answer those questions.
One question, the one thing I'm looking at is I'm looking at L101, which is the site plan, and in terms of character of the dunes, there seems to be a lot of raising of the grade around a large portion of the residents, and maybe we can just address that. I see why, is you have it seems to be relatively flat at elevation 6, but I know the first floor elevation is 13, and you
The first floor
around
elevation,
it,
yeah.
but there's a lot of regrading, a lot of elevation.
So
about that.
the FEMA flood zone is 12, with freeboard required is, I'm sorry, it's 10. With freeboard is 12. We're proposing 13, which is not substantially higher than what's the minimum required. And the grading is proposed to soften the appearance of the house so that you're not staring at the foundation walls. That's really what it is. I think 800 cubic yards of fill is being imported into the site. So it's not a substantial amount of fill that's being brought in.
Any questions, board members?
Well, yeah. Jane, did you want to say anything?
No, go ahead,
before I do?
please.
Okay.
I'll wait.
So you referenced two, Bendigo, and you know that was in front of us, and I'm sure we reviewed it. Our concerns then are very much the same concerns. They're very similar lots, and there's very similar questions that we have to ask. So to start with, we should say that this is about as extraordinarily attractive parcel that's left in the town of East Hampton. So all the features that are there are features we seek to protect. You know that. That's why you made the presentation you have. However, is there, for example, I have a question, is there a contractor involved yet?
A contractor has not been selected yet.
Yeah. So one of the things about that, and that's your choice, obviously, in the future, one of the things in the last one we did, Bendigo, we did ask the contractor to respond to some of our concerns, because if I go to the building protocol, which I read, and I just want to point out, and you don't have to reference it right now, but if we go to 2.4.3 and then 2.4 on to 2.4.9, these are all items that have the potential for us to have concern. They have to do with excavation. Where does the fill go? I've looked at your site plan. I see that you have a spot for a repository for the fills during excavation. If they're to be removed, they will be. Native soils are to stay. These are all the right things to say, and we're glad they're there. However, when I go through every one of these, everyone has a potential for a problem. Now, they're addressed in the protocol. Without a builder handy, it's going to be the responsibility, obviously, of Bates Massey to see that this is taken care of. This is part of it. What happens to the site, what happens on the site. I'm concerned a little bit about, do we know with the dewatering how many gallons per day that we're going to see there? How large I see it on there, but I've been part of dewatering projects, and I know that you can have to build berms, and sometimes they can get significant. It seems to me from what's proposed, we're not talking about a great deal of water, but it would be of some concern to me to know that we're not going to see this turn into a much larger reservoir, because that's going to cause disturbance, particularly in that area you have it. Then the next thing is that the access roads here were concerned on 2 Bendigo, it's concerned now. Most of the access drive that comes to this particular parcel is on 36. It's not on your parcel. The only thing that's on the parcel in front of us is really an east and west movement there. So everything else beyond that, and again, if you go back to Bendigo, we asked the same questions. What do we do here? What assurances do we get that that driveway, the wetlands surrounding the driveway, won't become those places where additional material is stored, where heavy equipment is put? I understand, I read the protocol, you're going to unload heavy equipment and drive it all the way up and through. And so these are all the right things. But having said what I said to begin with, there probably isn't a more sensitive and beautiful lot that we're going to review. We have to ask ourselves about, surrounded by every condition we're concerned with, what's going to happen to that roadway. So when we did Bendigo, we got an assurance that there would be none of that additional parking and none of that additional storage of material. We want to see drywall rings stored temporarily in a wetland for them to come in. All important. Now, I'm not saying it's not addressed in the protocol. I just point out that those items that I've just mentioned to you all have the potential impact to cause problems here. So from this point on, this comes across our desk. We look at it, we review it. I'm going to tell you it's a good protocol from what I can see. It's there. We have to see that it's going to be properly implemented.
How it's effectuated is.
Yeah, that's what's important. And because this site has in all directions, has a sensitivity. There isn't an offside to this site, for example. We're not coming in from a paved road, and we have to think about that. So I understand it also said about the number of people working on the site. There's going to be potentially some parking in other areas. Difficult site, very sensitive. And I think the fact that the access to the property is on someone else's lot, largely coming through 36, is important. So I think that when we look at this here, and again, I'm not telling you it isn't in the protocol. I'm just telling you that my concern is when I read these, that every one of these is a potential minefield of problems. And so from this point on, whatever we do, I think it's going to be incumbent on you and your team to see to it that this is properly enforced, because there'll be eyes on the site. This is far too sensitive a site for us not to take very, very seriously what we're looking at.
I mean, I would assume there are eyes on every property that's being under construction in the town,
yeah.
so which is expected.
Any other questions?
I just want to go back to the clearing for a moment. And I read Mr. Tarbutt's memo, and I know he said, I think, and you said it, we're coming up with our best estimate of all the things that need to happen on the property and trying to generously account for what that temporary clearing is, right? That's, but it's still, and you've taken 2,000 plus off, so it's 35 versus 38. But I'm still struck a little bit, if I go back to Bendigo, and you've put their clearing in the memorandum document on to Bendigo, right? The temporary clearing was not even 10,000 square feet more than the final clearing. This is a much bigger, gap between your temporary and what you're going to revegetate down to. And I'm still really trying to understand that, that temporary clearing, and especially relative to the coverage, the total coverage of the property. It's a lot more. So I know you've addressed it, but can you just shed any other light on that in terms of?
I mean, we proposed what we think is Board Member Johan just explained the complexities of building on this property, given its common driveway, its proximity to a paved road. We really think we need some space for stockpiling materials, for parking vehicles, for offloading materials. That, we actually do think that what we're proposing is a reasonable amount of room to construct the house. And it's documented that if you preserve or save the soils from on site and you use them for backfilling and fine grading, that in a matter of time, the native vegetation is going to.
How are we going to, at the end of the day, you're clearing, it's going to be trampled on, machines going over. How are we going to maintain the character of the dune? You have a dune between your outdoor fire pit and your residence that goes from 6 to 8. You can see it on the topo that's a beautiful undulating dune. And at the end of the day, how are we going to preserve that character?
I mean, we're proposing to regrade it pursuant to the plan. So that's going to be the character of how it gets reworked. I mean, again, I think at the end of the day too, you have to look at the property from 1,000 feet up and look at how much of the land is being disturbed relative to the overall size of the property. It's 11 and a half acres. So
bring a good team. You bring a solid team before you. So that's not my, I get that, right? But you have to understand what our concern. This is one of our prominent natural features in this town is our dunes. Yep. So we are concerned about them.
But prior to the issuance of a building permit, wouldn't they have to stake the clearing?
Yeah, we'll have to stake it by a survey. I mean, that's the recommended mitigation. It gets staked out. We install 4-foot work fence and construction fencing, wire back silt fencing, which is trenched into the ground, and that's all around the proposed limit of disturbance. And then that's got to be adhered to. I mean, if anybody exceeds that limit, they run against, it's a risk. They get stop work order, and then they have to fix it, and they stop, and time is money, and people don't like to waste time. So.
Just want to add in, I mean, I know the headline number is 11.635 acres, but really the buildable area is 2.594 acres. So that, and could you just address it? I know, again, Mr. Tarbett referenced the TAM's questioning about the orientation of the pool and how it's not in jurisdiction of, I know it meets the setback, but could you address that a little more fully, why that area, between the house and where you get onto the bluff and it starts to rise couldn't be preserved more?
Why it couldn't be, so you mean the pool orientation, the pool design?
It was asked in the TAM, and I know Mr. Tarbett addressed it quickly in his memo.
I would let Paul elaborate, but my understanding of the design is that it's to maximize so that rooms in the house are not overlooking a pool. So the pool is set off to the side, to the left of around the pool is the patio, to the left of the pool or to the west of the pool is their utility area, utility shed that contains the AC units, the pool equipment and the like, electrical meters and such. There's 2 bedrooms to the right of the pool, and then the main bedroom is to the east side of the house. So all the bedrooms have a pretty view of the dunes, and they don't want to obstruct it with looking at a pool cover for 7 months out of the year or 8 months out of the year. That's one of the impetuses behind it. But if that isn't, if you're looking for more information, I would.
No, I wanted just a little more of the choices, because we always have to look at the choices that someone's making.
I mean, it's an aesthetic. They'd rather not stare at a swimming pool, most of the year. I mean, there's no argument that it's a beautiful site and it's lovely dune features. They'd rather look at the dune features.
Any other questions, board members?
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Who's, Morgan, come on up.
Good evening, board. Morgan Slater for the Planning Department again. So this property was created as part of a 1975 minor subdivision that created 4 lots that are accessed by a pervious driveway that crosses over a culvert through a man-made creek on the westernmost of the 4 parcels. The creek flows west and parallel to Bendigo Road before discharging into Gardner's Bay and is part of a larger wetland system within this area. There's a substantial freshwater forested swamp to the south that is acknowledged in the 1975 subdivision, and a freshwater swale on the adjacent property to the east. There's also high-quality secondary duneland and beach vegetation that extends to the primary dune crest, so the subject parcel essentially contains all natural features protected by the town code. The project is proposed within the secondary duneland habitat and meets the minimum wetland and dune crest setbacks. The native beach vegetation on this lot is a protected natural feature that is most impacted by the proposal. It behaves as a diverse assemblage of dune species and is a habitat for special concern species, including marsh hawks and hognose snakes. This is the last of the 4 lots to have a development proposal, with the most recent one receiving a January 2025 approval from this board for a new residence of comparable size on the vacant property at 2 Bendigo that is 2 lots to the east. Before that, the last time a residence was constructed within this subdivision was in 2004 after receiving a ZBA approval in 2000. The applicant's memorandum of law compares this application to others that have received approvals in the area, including 172 Cranberry Hole Road and 2 Bendigo Road, but did not include the lot area as defined by the town code. So the lot area included in the memorandum excludes wetlands and any land seaward of the dune crest. When these parameters are accounted for, 20 Bendigo has the smallest lot area. This does not affect the planning department's recommendations for the application, but it is important context when comparing development proposals. The applicant has addressed the planning department's concerns in their recent submissions. The most recent survey was revised yesterday and depicts about 2,500 square feet less of clearing for construction than the original proposal and the same final clearing limits. The maximum allowable clearing on this property is 38,251 square feet, and the project proposes temporary clearing limits of 35,734 square feet, which will be revegetated to final clearing limits of 12,778 square feet. It is worth noting that the application at 2 Bendigo Road proposed temporary clearing limits of 28,184 square feet, where 52,904 square feet is the maximum allowed. For a percentage comparison, on 2 Bendigo, it was 53%, and on 20 Bendigo, it's 93% of the maximum allowed. In the area of proposed construction, there are thickets of tree and shrub species indigenous to the duneland habitat with patches of bare sand and beach grass throughout. The proposal to revegetate with only American beach grass is satisfactory to the planning department because the retention of the native soils on the property should allow for other duneland species that rely on the mycorrhizal fungi within the soils to reestablish. The 1975 subdivision requires a 5.4 acre scenic easement to be established before the issuance of a building permit, but an easement of this size would not fully encompass the wetland on the property, which is about 8 acres. The planning department had recommended a scenic easement that extends from the southern property line to 100 feet past the northernmost part of the wetland to be consistent with the recommendation made for the recent application at 2 Bendigo. The location of the access easement on this lot makes a 100-foot conservation easement a little complicated. Because of this circumstance, a conservation easement that extends to the southern boundary of the access easement makes the most sense. This would encompass about 8.5 acres of the property compared to the 5.4 acres that is required by the subdivision. The swamp to the south is one of the most pristine and unique wetland habitats found in East Hampton, so establishing an easement that encompasses the wetland and includes the buffer south of the common driveway is crucial to the wetlands conservation. The planning department requests that any excavated soils be retained on site and used for backfill, and all imported soils should be compatible with the existing conditions on the property. This will help retain the duneland character and encourage the recolonization of indigenous duneland species. It's also recommended that the establishment of turf, lawn, sod, or ornamental vegetation be prohibited, since the native duneland and beach vegetation are the protected natural features that are most impacted by this proposal. That's pretty much an overview of the site and the planning department's recommendations. If the board has any questions, I'm happy to answer them to the best of my knowledge.
Any questions?
In terms of the question about the easement, extending onto it, are you recommending 100 feet because it's parallel to what was done at 2 Bendigo?
Yes.
It's impossible to talk about that being 90 feet from the wetlands to allow for future maintenance of the road. That seems to be a concern of the applicant.
Yeah, I think it would just be a little clunky legally with, trying to accommodate for the access easement within a larger buffer. I did kind of talk to Charlie about it if it was feasible, and I think having it just extend to the driveway or the southernmost part of the driveway easement is the most realistic option.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, what you put in front of us.
That reflects what I just described, going to the southernmost portion of the access easement.
So it's how many, so it's not 100 feet, it's, I can't, 90.
It extends about 99, I would say 100 feet on the westernmost part, and then it gets as narrow as 23 feet from the northern edge of the wetlands.
And I forgot, did on 2 Bendigo, did the applicant also, was there any easement on the dune, on the dune crest side?
It was discussed the night of the hearing. It did not make it into the final decision, though.
Is that something you would recommend, or you feel that this?
I think that is a good recommendation for a lot like this, especially considering that we are not able to get as large of a buffer for the wetland.
So you're saying the planning department would recommend some form of easement over the seaward side?
Correct, or landward side of the dune crest. Yes.
Right, okay.
Is there a landscape plan that you've reviewed and accepted at this point?
There's no revegetation plan per se, but all areas disturbed by construction are proposed to be revegetated with American beach grass, which we find sufficient for this lot.
When they're done, we're going to suppose that this is going to look like it was dropped in by a helicopter.
At first, yes. The hope is that any woody duneland species would repopulate over time.
That's what's reflected in what you're assuming is the re-veg plan, is that all disturbed areas would be revegetated with the approval of the planning department in terms of species and coverage.
Oh yeah, over time, and that should all be left to repopulate with other species, as long as the native soils are kept on the parcel.
we have something on a protocol, and this may not, I don't know if this is a valid question, but we're going to have a big construction over here, and then there's going to be this one. And I know they haven't started two. I went to see there's fencing up, but how does the town overall think about, you know, that much activity potentially? We don't know that they're going to happen at the same time, but what's the thought relative to if you had both projects going at the same time, again, relative to that bridge and these access roads? Is there any
I mean,
concern?
there's definitely some sympathy for the neighbor that is between the two lots that are potentially going to be under construction at the same time. The applicant did provide an engineering report of that bridge with the culvert under it, and a stabilization protocol for it. So that way that's not an issue, because, you know, we don't know what the upkeep of that is. The last thing we would want is, you know, large trucks going over it every single day and causing it to collapse. So as long as that protocol is in place and followed.
Whether it's two projects at once or not.
Yeah, so I think that I don't know how the town can facilitate coordination between the two projects. I think there's only so much that we could do, but I think the hope would be that the contractors have each other's phone numbers and communicate to each other.
Right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
There's an easement, an overall conservation easement over that entire access road, right?
I don't think there's a conservation easement over the access road. I think that it's its own separate access easement. Yeah, yes.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the public who would like to address this application? Anybody online?
We have no callers on the phone.
Thank you. Billy, you have any closing remarks? I think there was some comment about, or some questions about the easement expanding.
Yeah, the easement and also just the coordinating the access part. So Joe and Kim, they want to be good neighbors. They want to be friendly with Sullivan's and the owners of Two Bendigo. They've had meetings and they've been in communication. They're trying to coordinate some of the work. They're coordinating utilities, and so the work is going to be done together, and they're going to try to keep Mr. Sullivan as happy as humanly possible. So they want to be good neighbors. They're going to live here. So obviously it's in their best interest to do that.
Yeah, and I'll just reinforce maybe some of the concerns that our member Johan has. And if there's two projects going on, the potential for construction creep is even greater.
Yeah.
So
No, I get it.
Yeah, understand that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Protocols at this point, though, establish that any heavy equipment coming onto the property is not going to be on a lowboy that's going to block the road. So we see that happening. And I know on Two Bendigo, we talked about if we were going to have any cast concrete there, that would also be nursed down the road rather than having some, because I think there was concern about the bridge, and that was kind of alleviated in the last time go around with the last thing. But I do think, as the chair mentions, you know, we're very concerned about what happens if this winds up looking like the expressway.
Regarding the easement, if I understood correctly, it's to extend, I mean, I would respectfully request that we just cut it 10 feet south of the driveway, the common driveway. Just, we don't know what the future brings, if they ever have to widen the common driveway or put in some utilities that we're not thinking about right now. I mean,
I think that's reasonable.
It just gives a little bit of wiggle room there. That's all. You know, I mean, it's not going to get, that area is not going to get touched anyway. It's within, you know, wetland jurisdiction, and it's dune land, so it can't be touched. But I just think for the future, we don't know. So that's my only other comment.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
What? Yeah, I don't understand how the road would be. Wasn't the access easement a fixed situation? I mean, how would it ever get widened?
The common driveway?
Well, isn't the access road the common driveway?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how would it ever get widened?
Yeah, I just didn't know. I thought it was set as part of the subdivision at a certain.
Well, it is. I mean, it is an easement that's set, but the owners can mutually agree to make changes to it. I mean, if they decide to add an emergency turnaround or an emergency turnoff or a fire hydrant or something like that, you know, that's all. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate the board's time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have a motion?
Yes, please. 1 second. 1 second. Okay, in the matter of Joseph McCary and Kim Stoller, 20 Bendigo Road, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map, number 300-152-1-11.3, I make a motion to close the public hearing and close the record.
Concur.
I concur.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. How you doing, Paul? Okay, next we have Philip Giordano at 15 DeForest Road at Montauk, Suffolk, tax map number 300-32-5-22. The size and location is 23,503 square feet at 15 DeForest Road, Montauk. The description is a modification of the zoning board's determination filed January 11, 2019, which allowed a 616 square foot patio to remain within wetland setbacks and authorized the construction of 6-foot tall driveway gate on a parcel of land containing freshwater wetlands. The relief sought as a modification is required to permit the wetland setback for an approved driveway gate to be reduced from 14.2 feet north of the wetland to remain approximately 1 foot south of the wetland. The zoning district is B residence, AE flood zone, elevation 14, and the certificate class is type 2. Council, do we have proper affidavit of service and posting?
Yes, I reviewed the affidavits of service and posting, and everything appears to be in order. The board has jurisdiction.
Thank you. You're doing the report? Okay, Terry?
Yeah, it's the official notices was properly posted. Next. This is a shot looking across the street in the direction of a park, one of the parking lots at but that's not the parking lot. I took a couple of shots of houses where there were other gravel driveways. There are no gates that I've seen in the area. Next. Just some more of another view looking up to Forest Road toward the east. Next. And this is a photo of posts as they exist today. Next. And just went up into the house. I wasn't sure where the original 14.2 variant from the wetlands left me exactly, but I think it's actually a little farther north than this. And I think Brian has that. And that may be it, I think. Nope, okay. Just a broader view. I think the original, I mentioned it, goes back to slightly where the lawn area on the left looks, and it's a little bit over in that area toward the house. And that, I think, is the last.
Thank you. We have the agent. How are you, Deborah?
See you there.
That wasn't ideal, but I chose it and I stuck with it. I'm Deborah Choron of Matthews, Kirst, Cooley & Choron on behalf of the applicant, Philip Giordano, for this modification application for 15 DeForest Road in Montauk. This property came before you many years ago in 2012 for a much more comprehensive application that included the demolition of the previously existing residence, which was constructed prior to zoning, and included the construction of the now existing 2,210 square foot residence. The property came before the board again in 2019 to allow a patio to remain and to construct a 6-foot tall gate 14.2 feet from the freshwater wetlands. And we are now before you seeking to modify that 2019 approval so that the gate might be relocated to a more impactful location. My office was not involved in the 2012 or the 2019 applications. In all transparency, we were retained after the applicant received a stop work order for beginning construction of the gate in a location that is closer to the wetland than was previously approved by this board. The technical analysis memorandum asked the applicant to explain why the applicant began construction in a manner that's inconsistent with the prior approval and without the necessary permits. And even though we are not under a legal obligation to explain why, as that's not one of the enumerated criteria for this board to consider, it is relevant in this instance. So in this instance, I'm happy to explain. The applicant had previously contemplated and proposed a 6-foot gate. It's commonly known in our community that a 6-foot gate on most any property triggers permitting. In fact, any gate over 4 feet in height will always require ARB and a building permit. So here, the applicant was under the impression that if he simply decided to switch to a shorter gate, no taller than 4 feet, he would no longer need to go through the permitting process. So he didn't realize that on his property, due to the location of the wetlands, he would still require a level of oversight from this board. So I point this out because the TAM inadvertently states that the applicant seeks a 6-foot gate, but actually at this point, that's not true. Per the survey and plans that were submitted, with this modification application, he's only intending to build a 4-foot gate. So based on the applicant's experience residing at this property, he feels that a 4-foot gate in a location closer to the road will not only benefit him with regard to his privacy and safety, but it will benefit the general health, safety, and welfare of the immediate neighboring neighborhood along this stretch of DeForest Road. So this property sits between 2 of the main parking lots at Ditch Plains Beach. And on busy summer weekends, despite our TCO's best efforts, traffic and parking are horrendous here. The parking lots fill up very early in the morning, and visitors continue to creep along DeForest all day, trying to figure out how they can access the beach. And without a gate, the applicant's property tends to invite a steady stream of trespassers. People driving along DeForest change their minds about where they might find parking and turn around or double park on the applicant's property. It creates more traffic and a dangerous situation. On some days, it's a steady stream of people driving up his driveway, turning around, unloading their vehicles, and even parking and leaving their vehicles. The TCOs will not write tickets for illegally parked vehicles on private property, so the applicant has been left with little recourse. The chief concern is safety, and for the safety of those on DeForest Road and on the applicant's property. He believes a gate closer to the road would dissuade and prevent the bad behavior that tends to make this area dangerous for drivers, cyclists, and pedestrians. So speaking to the character of the neighborhood, I appreciate the photographs. On the opposite side of the road, between the 2 parking lots, it's considerably vegetated, and the large home there has a very tall hedgerow that creates privacy on that side of the road. The structures on the applicant's side of the road, the structures on the other side of the road are almost completely obstructed from the street. On the applicant's side of the road, the properties are plainly viewable and are perhaps more inviting and susceptible to people trespassing. So I believe that a 4-foot gate closer to the road allows the property to remain in harmony with the character of the neighborhood while achieving the applicant's goal of preventing people from trespassing and dissuading them from stopping along this area. In preparing for this hearing, it became realized that the proposed location of the gate is 18 feet from the edge of DeForest, where 20 feet is required. So we did make an additional submission via OpenGov noting that, and we are waiting to figure out how we can make payment for that appropriate variance. We were told the office no longer accepts checks, but we'll make that payment appropriately.
And what was that submission?
Today it's Tuesday, just yesterday.
To what? To put it to 20 feet?
No, we're still keeping it at the 18 feet. If we move it to 20 feet, it will literally be in line with the wetland. So this location, we believe, is the most preferred to achieve our goals. But it does require a variance from a separate section of the code. So we wanted to acknowledge that and make the appropriate payment for that variance. But now this was submitted on paper prior to OpenGov, the portal. So we have to figure out the logistics of that. So it seems that the planning department's stated preference is to potentially move the gate closer to DeForest, which, I believe the applicant would be amenable to, but I'm happy to receive this board's feedback to, gauge the sentiments on that if we find a sweet spot that's agreeable to everyone. Ultimately, I do not believe the 4-foot gate as designed will have any significant impact to the viability of the wetland. Here, the wetland pinches in along the existing driveway. and there's room for the gate so that none of the wetland would be disturbed. And hopefully it goes without saying, but with the ZBA oversight and my involvement, and then the building department's involvement, once construction is underway, we would make sure to include hay bales or project limiting fences to minimize any impact. Lastly, I am familiar with this area, going down there on the weekends myself. I don't believe there's another practical solution to solving the issue on DeForest for this particular property. Something about it truly does just invite people to go on his driveway. The homes that are east of this property on the same stretch of road are 100% cleared. They're smaller homes. And I think, just if I had to guess what's in people's minds, I think maybe because they are 100% cleared and the properties lie flat together with one another, I think maybe people don't feel quite as comfortable pulling up in front of their homes because there's nothing between the home and the road. But for this particular home, it's a real consistent issue. So, he discussed putting up no trespassing signs and things in that nature, but I don't think that strikes the right tone for the neighborhood. And even if they were up, frankly, I don't think people would follow them. So based on the behavior patterns I see around this Montauk this time of year, I do think the 4-foot gate closer to the road would solve the issues and be appropriate here. So as always, I'm here for questions, and I appreciate your time and consideration. Thank you so much.
Go ahead.
Oh, you have questions?
Yeah, I do. You said it's currently, the gate is currently 18 feet from the forest, from the pavement?
The proposal, yes. So the posts did go in. There's no gate there, and the posts are, meant to be cut down. They're they got a stop work order, and they did stop. Yeah. So they have 2, wooden posts there, hanging out for a while now.
Well, I was there today. I didn't measure it, but I'm saying 18 feet from the pavement is yes. What you're saying it is.
Yes,
pavement.
Where 20 feet is technically required. Yes. So on this section, it's a nice flat, virtually straight area. There are bends approaching it and after it. And there is, some nice lawn, between DeForest and the property. So that's essentially where the 18 feet is. But it makes it very inviting for the public to pull up where they see, it looks more like part of the roadway than the applicant's property when you see the grass next to the road and then the hedges.
And there's no fencing connected to this.
No,
it's just
there's
posting
not.
Gates, right?
Yes, exactly. So in some respects, it makes sense to have it there kind of in line with the wetland, because then there is no need for the fence or any kind of fence. It really will prohibit people. And from the photos that we saw, the wetland seems to be viable and thriving. It looks nice and thick. So
for what it's worth, there was ticketing going on today.
There was ticketing going on? Oh, well, if they're on the road, the TCOs can do it, and they do it. They work very, very hard, and hopefully they generate a lot of revenue for the town. But when they're actually in his driveway and pulling up into his driveway, they can't, and it's frustrating for him.
2 members of the board were ticketed today.
Oh, no, I'm sorry to hear that. Do you have a lawyer? I'm so sorry.
We strong-armed him out of the ticket.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions?
No. I have no questions. Want to get Brian?
You do?
I have no questions.
Oh, no questions.
Brian.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. Brian Frank from the Planning Department.
Brian, do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
And I think Ms. Choron did a accurate job summarizing the history of the property, its redevelopment in 2013 when the existing residence was demolished and the residence that's on the property now was permitted to be reconstructed. And then in the 2019 application, when a slate patio was rebuilt and reconfigured without a permit, That came back, got an approval from this board, and included the proposal for what was then a 6-foot gate proposed on the north side of the wetland. As Ms. Choron has mentioned, the posts are installed on the south side of the wetland. They physically exist now. It's not quite gated yet. It's I guess the bones of a gate. And the planning department's suggestion about relocating the gate closer to the Forest Road was before I was aware of that provision that requires the street or the setback from the road surface. So that was an oversight on my part, not being aware of 255-1188, the rules that apply to accessory structures. It covers a lot, but if you go to the driveway clause there, the reason for that is to allow access and turning radius of emergency vehicles. So lessening that to a shorter distance is not in the interest of good planning. It's not good for the applicant as a property owner. God forbid you're trying to get an emergency vehicle, whether it's a fire engine or an ambulance, up that driveway, depending on the nature of the call. Anything that slows it down is, again, not in anybody's interest. So that recommendation is flawed and really should be disregarded. I do think the application is a poor candidate for the variance as it was requested. I think it would contradict a lot of the findings of the board's determination in 2019, and it's not clear if it really meets any of the variance standards that are in the code now. In 2019, the board found that 14.1 foot setback was substantial, but was the minimum variance necessary. The determination noted that the gate met all other setbacks besides wetlands, and that the gate would be well screened by its distance from the street. None of that will be true with the location where it is now. And in addition to that, I think that was I listened to what Deborah said carefully about how the property is used by the public, but as Member Berger pointed out in her photos and as evidenced by the aerial, you have 10 driveways between the Ditch Plains parking lot and Otis Road parking lot. None of them are gated. So to suggest that adding a gate where one exists protects the character of the neighborhood, I think is the opposite is true, and that adding a gate would change the character of the neighborhood. It's a more substantial variance than the board granted in the past, significantly more. We have a 100-foot setback for structures, and this would be about a 99% reduction in that. And there have to be other alternatives to consider, whether that is signage. I agree that, cones or chains across a driveway are certainly not the most inviting or the aesthetic, but they are certainly less impactful than the work that was done, which does not appear to have followed the protocol that was all that was required was adequate sediment control. And it's pretty obvious if you take a look at the posts, if you take a look at the concrete around them, it does appear that there was direct runoff right into the stream, into those surface waters that those wetlands contain. And is it a self-created hardship? The ownership is the same. The applicant was given permission to put the gates where he had requested them. I think at one point, I have a photograph that Michael Delalio had taken. The sediment control was erected for that on the north side of the gate, on the north side of the wetlands for the driveway gate. In its location now, it's 18 feet from the road. So if somebody is still going to nose in and use that to turn around, they can. And I don't think there's any real evidence to suggest that a closed gate on the north side of the wetlands would not be enough of a disincentive to have somebody. That's pretty audacious to pull into somebody's driveway and actually park on private property. And I think the gate in its original location would prevent that, because it would, it's kind of in the narrower point of the driveway there. So it's really hard to see how this would be a good candidate for the relief that's required. Beyond that, this is the aerial. I have both the survey that was approved by the board as well as the one that's requested by the applicant and this modification available if the board members want to see it. And if there are any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Brian, was a gate proposed and approved in 2013 or 2019?
19.
And they did a 6-foot gate? Didn't that have to go to ARB?
It was a 6-foot gate at the time, and I'm not sure if because it exceeded the front yard setback, if it was not in the front yard anymore and didn't need ARB. I have to admit, I am not as
Far enough setback off of the road. It's within whatever the front yard setback on this lot is. If it's outside of that distance, it can be 6 feet without ARB approval.
Oh, okay.
And it would. This would be more than 30 feet from the the front yard lot line.
Yeah.
And therefore, it would not need ARB. This would need ARB in addition to the relief that's required here. It was conditioned to get a DEC permit. There's no indication that one was obtained, and it's pretty clear that a building permit wasn't obtained. So there has to be a little better adherence to what the applicant had agreed to do.
And for emergency vehicles, that's 255, 1188?
Yes, and those are other uses for, gosh, I'm going to mess up the name of that provision, but it lists the uses there in alphabetical order. So you just go down to D and you'll see driveways. I wasn't either, obviously. I do have a copy of it here if you want a copy in your file. If not, it's obviously easily retrievable.
It's a provision that's overlooked by many people in the town.
Thanks, Charlie.
It is in the code. I've only made aware of it because I was on ARB for a year, so.
And gates are
A big chunk.
part of the ARB's lifeline.
Does anybody want to see the survey?
Survey?
I'm sorry?
No, Brian offered to show the
Oh,
survey
okay.
that had been approved, if you want to see it.
Oh, the original one. Sure, I see it.
So,
Do you mind pulling up that survey
Show us.
for the boards?
I'm sorry, of course not. Which one? You want to see the one? that was
The one
approved?
that was approved.
that's a big help.
I could.
Can you zoom it?
Please, yeah, could you zoom it? Zoom it,
Thank you.
please.
Bottom right.
Oh, that's
Oh, that,
thank you.
okay, there you go.
This was the survey that was approved in the board's determination, January 10th, 2018.
Thank you. Any questions for Brian?
No, thank you.
Deborah, you want to come? Oh, is there anybody on the public? There's nobody here. Is anybody online, Matt?
We have no callers at this time.
Come on up. So Deborah, I'm kind of struggling with the balancing test part of this, of our responsibility. So we have the scrutiny of a previous zoning board.
Right.
We have, you're saying the nexus for approval is trespassing.
Yes.
And then we have wetlands, which was the reason why we have so in the balancing tests, we have to say, I mean, the wetlands are a protected feature. And it did went through, as a result of that, it did go through scrutiny of a previous zoning board, which I always give deference to. So how do we square this off with what you're requesting?
Yeah, I understand that. So the history from my perspective, and Brian can correct me if I'm wrong, but this gate was never built. The applicant had these concerns and went through a process with a different attorney, different builders, and when he went to pursue the construction of this gate, he was surprised at the location being so far on his property. I don't believe it was really part of the conversation. There was a lot going on in terms of building a new large home in the outset, and then his experience of living there with the driveway. And then I believe the main issue when he came back was about the patio. So when he, after the experience of living there, him wanting a gate, added that to the application, but I don't believe it was a big discussion between him and his prior counsel as to where that location would be. I believe what I've gathered is that they put it where they perceive to be, as far back, but potentially still consequential. His experience residing at this property is that he just does not have any faith, based on what goes on, that that would stop people from pulling onto his property and unloading vehicles for the beach. The other thing that he's brought up to me several times is, I know it seems unbelievably audacious that people would come onto somebody's property, park, and actually go to the beach. The gentleman who owns this property is an acquaintance of an acquaintance with everyone in town. So everyone feels entitled to park here. So it happens. And, he wants to put a stop to it without becoming the grouchy neighbor. We do think that, we do have the approval of this 6-foot gate in this location, which is 14 feet from the wetland. We're now asking to reduce the height. We thought that was a nice give and take, but to put it in front of the wetland to make it more consequential for the purpose that is required. In terms of the legal standard, because we already have the approval of the fact of a 6-foot gate, we're not starting at square one here where I need to go through the enumerated criteria as to why we need a gate near the wetland. So it's almost as if the narrow legal question becomes, can you find a distinction as a consequence to this wetland between a 6-foot tall gate 14 feet away and a 4-foot tall gate 2 feet away? And I'm not sure that you as a board can really say that there's going to be a negative consequence as for that modification to the prior approval. So I respect and completely appreciate the concerns and wanting to preserve the wetland, but the fact of the prior approval, that really becomes the narrow question
But
there.
the burden of the proof is not on the board. The burden of the proof is on you.
Right, I understand that. I personally don't believe that a 4-foot gate, 2 feet versus 14 feet from the wetland, a vertical structure that's only 14 feet in height, 4 feet in height, is going to negatively impact the wetland that's along a road where people are parking and unloading their beach vehicles daily. I don't think that 4-foot gate is going to disturb it to any measurable level.
Okay, any other questions?
No, I'm fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a motion.
Okay. It's a regular motion, right? Okay. So from the application of Philip Giordano at 15 DeForest Road, Montauk, that's about 300-32-5-22. Make a motion to close the public hearing and the public record.
Thank you. Thank you, Deborah.
Do we have a second?
We have a second.
I second.
I concur. I concur.
I concur. Thank you.
Ed did? Oh, okay.
Okay. That moves us on to the draft minutes of Tuesday, July 22nd,
Oh, okay.
25.
Yeah, and make a motion to approve the draft minutes from Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025 for the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second it?
I concur.
I concur.
I concur. Thank you. Move on to resolutions. We have Alan and Karen Burke at 1859 Montauk Highway, Amagansett, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-131-1-11.1.
Thank you. The board will recall that this is an application for new development on a currently undeveloped lot. And I'm going to make a motion to, in the matter of Alan and Karen Burke, Suffolk County Tax Map, 1859 Montauk Highway, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-131-1-11.1. I make a motion to accept the determination as written.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Concur. Thank you. Next, we have Saul at 205 Marine Boulevard, Amagansett, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-176-8-26. This is a modification, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a modification. Okay, right, so you'll recall this was a modification having to do with some, I think, stairways around the dune and some of the walkways or pathways. We did want to make, when we discussed this, we wanted to make clear that the only modification being approved was what's specified, that there was some other work being done, and we were not approving that. So I believe that this resolution amending the determination seems to capture that. So in the matter of the application of Angela and Stephen Saul, 205 Marine Boulevard, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-176-08-26, I make a motion to accept the resolution amending the determination as written.
Second that.
Concur.
Concur, thank you.
Now, we did Yakubowski last week.
Yeah, this is a
That's what I thought.
modification. There was a scrivener's error.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay, yeah.
All right, next we have Karen Creeder at 224 Fairview Avenue. We are doing Yakubowski?
Yeah, it's
it's a
just a mod-
just
there
a
was a-
Scrivener's error.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. Then,
The
yeah, I'm
construction
sorry.
protocol, things got switched, so we're just,
We have Yakubowski at 15 Bay Street, Montauk, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-28-5-5.2.
Remember what we did last week with this is an undeveloped parcel, very sensitive, standing water, very limited space in the northwest corner to build a house and a very sensitive driveway. It was a 3-2 approval. And in the case of Yakubowski at 15 Fay Street, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-28-5-5.2, I'd like to make a motion to accept the determination as amended.
Second.
Concur.
Concur, thank you. Next, we have Karen Creeder at 224 Fairview Avenue in Montauk. Suffolk Tax Map number 300-19-2-28.1.
This was also mine. This is one you'll remember that there was a shed to be moved and or approval for a wall. And there was a serious amount of revegetation and I think it was a 4-1 approval. I'm sorry. 4-1? Anybody not approve this?
Did I know?
Anybody not approve Creeder? Maybe it's 5-0.
No, I think I.
Okay.
Okay.
Then
What
in
does it say on the determination?
the application to Karen Creeder at 224 Fairview Avenue, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-19-2-28.1. I'd like to make a motion to accept the determination as written.
Second.
Concur.
Concur, thank you. We have Chris and Julie Salmon at 108 Navy Road in Montauk, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-26-1-16.
Yes, you remember this, our hearing was July 15th. So this is the house on Navy Road in a beautiful location near the water. And it's a house that is in some disrepair since it was originally built. And this is going to make the house livable again, large septic upgrade and revegetation and a lot of restoration of pretty much the house with some minor additions to it. This was a unanimous approval. So in the matter of Chris and Julie Salmon, Tax Map 300-26-1-16, make a motion to approve the determination as written.
I'll second it.
I concur.
Concur, thank you. Then we'll get a motion to adjourn the meeting and go into executive decision to discuss with legal counsel.
I'd like to make a,
sorry, just advice of counsel. Yeah.
Yes, vice of counsel.
for advice of counsel, yes. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the zoning board of appeals meeting of 7/29/25 at 8:56 PM.
I'll second it.
I concur.
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 I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of conversing with counsel.
Concur.
Thank you.
All right, good night, all.
Good night.
Good night.